It was a cold January morning in Calgary. A mother of three, a devoted teacher, and her elderly father were brutally taken from this world, inside the very home where love was supposed to live. Within hours, the killer himself would also be found dead. This wasn't just another crime story. It was the shattering of a family, the unraveling of trust, and the devastating reminder of how quickly control can turn into violence.
Fairly quiet street. Nothing like this has ever happened before. There's no crime around this area at all.
Inside, they found the woman's body. Just an hour and a half earlier, they had been at another scene in Kinkora where they found the body of the man they believed to be her father.
Before we dive deeper into this heartbreaking case, make sure you subscribe to Noir Crime 88. We bring you detailed true crime stories every second day, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join us as we uncover the darkest human stories hidden in plain sight. On January 9, 2025, police in Calgary, Alberta, responded to a disturbing call from a quiet suburban neighborhood. Inside one of the homes, they discovered the bodies of 36-year-old Ania Kaminski and her 69-year-old father, Stanislaw Wardzala. Both had been murdered in what investigators would later call an act of domestic rage. But this wasn't a crime committed by strangers. This wasn't a random break-in. Police immediately knew who they were looking for: Ania's estranged husband, Marek Kaminski. Within a day, Marek himself would be found dead, ending the case as quickly as it had begun, yet leaving behind an even deeper mystery. How could a family's story end in such violence, so fast, and with so many warning signs overlooked? To understand the horror of that day, we need to step back and look at who Ania was, because she was far more than just another name in the headlines. Born Ania Wardzala, she grew up in a Polish-Canadian household where family meant everything. Friends remember her as kind, energetic, and someone who carried joy wherever she went. Teaching wasn't just her profession, it was her calling. She worked as an elementary school teacher, inspiring children every single day. Ania was also a mother of 3 young children. For those who knew her, motherhood was the role she cherished most. She was described as gentle yet strong, someone who would do anything to protect her kids. In her late 20s, she met Marek Kaminski, another Polish-Canadian living in Calgary. At first, their relationship seemed full of promise. They shared cultural roots, spoke the same language, and soon built a family together. But over time, cracks began to show. Marek, according to family friends, struggled with controlling behavior. He was described as jealous, quick-tempered, and unwilling to let Ania live freely. What began as arguments grew darker with each passing year. By 2024, Ania had reached her breaking point. The marriage was collapsing. She confided in friends and relatives that she planned to leave Marek for good. In fact, she was already preparing divorce papers. She knew the risk. It's often when a woman decides to leave that danger peaks. But Ania believed she had to take that step, both for her safety and for her children's future. Her father, Stanislaw, was her anchor during this time. He was a proud, hard-working man who had always been protective of his daughter. Friends said he would do anything to shield her and his grandchildren from harm. He spent a lot of time at her house, helping care for the kids and supporting her emotionally. Together, father and daughter were building a plan, a way forward without Marek. But on that January morning, everything collapsed. January 9, 2025 began like any other winter morning in Calgary. The streets were quiet, children were getting ready for school, and in the Kaminski household, tension was brewing behind closed doors. Ania had been living in a state of fear for weeks. Friends later revealed that Marek had grown increasingly volatile since learning she planned to leave him. He had reportedly issued threats, insisting that if she left, she would regret it. For Ania, every step forward felt like walking on a tightrope. That morning, her father, Stanislaw, was visiting the home. He often stayed over or stopped by to help with the kids, especially during stressful times. For him, family was everything, and he knew his daughter needed his presence now more than ever. Around mid-morning, something triggered Marek's rage. Whether it was another argument, a demand about the divorce, or his growing sense of losing control, we may never know. What we do know is that the confrontation turned deadly. Police later confirmed that Marek attacked both Ania and her father inside the home. The exact details remain closely guarded, but what investigators did share was chilling. It was a violent assault that left both victims fatally injured before they could escape or call for help. Neighbors reported hearing muffled shouting, but no one realized the horror unfolding just a few feet away. By the time someone noticed something was wrong and authorities arrived, it was already too late. When officers entered the residence, they were met with a devastating scene. Ania and Stanislaw were lifeless. The children, thankfully, were unharmed, though reports suggest at least one of them may have been in the house during the attack. Imagine, for just a moment, the trauma of knowing your children might have witnessed the unthinkable. The Calgary police immediately launched a manhunt for Marek Kaminski. Their suspicion wasn't based on guesswork, it was crystal clear from the evidence and the history of threats that he was the prime suspect. Within hours, his description was circulated widely. Patrol units combed through neighborhoods, highways, and even rural roads. But Marek was nowhere to be found. By the following day, the search came to a grim end. Marek Kaminski's body was discovered not far from the crime scene. He had taken his own life, cutting short any possibility of trial, answers, or accountability. For investigators, the case closed quickly. But for the family, friends, and community, the nightmare was only beginning. The death of Ania and her father wasn't just a shocking double homicide, it was a story that laid bare the devastating consequences of domestic violence and the dangers faced by women trying to leave controlling partners. And in this case, the tragedy had no courtroom closure, no lengthy investigation, no chance for the victims' loved ones to face the man responsible. Instead, everything ended in silence, leaving behind more questions than answers. The moment Calgary police confirmed that Ania and her father had been murdered, the case hit the community like a tidal wave. This wasn't a random act of violence, it was intimate, calculated, and tragically familiar to those who work in domestic violence response. Police quickly pieced together the timeline. Witnesses recalled seeing Marek's vehicle near the house that morning. Friends told detectives about the escalating threats Ania had received in the weeks leading up to her death. There were reports of arguments, strained family gatherings, and even a blow-up during Christmas holidays that left Ania shaken. For investigators, the picture became clear, this was not a spur-of-the-moment outburst. It was a case of control, obsession, and ultimate destruction. But while the police wrapped up their files quickly after finding Marek's body, the investigation didn't end there, not really. It shifted into a different kind of search, trying to understand what went wrong and what could have been done differently. At a press conference, Calgary police emphasized the growing reality of domestic homicides in Canada. They reminded the public that leaving an abusive or controlling partner is the most dangerous time for a victim. In many cases, the act of separation is what triggers the most extreme violence. Sadly, that was exactly what happened here. For Ania's family and friends, grief collided with frustration. Many asked, could this have been prevented? Had there been warning signs that weren't taken seriously enough? The community responded with an outpouring of support. Outside Ania's school, parents and students left flowers, handwritten cards, and photographs. Colleagues described her as a bright light in the classroom, someone who always went the extra mile for her students. Children spoke about how much they loved her, how she made learning feel safe and fun. Her father, Stanislaw, was remembered as a rock, someone who lived for his family, especially his grandchildren. Friends said he was the kind of man who never hesitated to step in when needed. He died, they believed, doing what he had always done, trying to protect his daughter. Her brother told reporters, "I still don't feel like this is real. I keep waiting to wake up from this nightmare." The story resonated far beyond Calgary. Across Canada, people discussed the urgent need for stronger protections for those leaving abusive partners. Advocates called for more resources, better early intervention, and tougher responses to threats. For many, the case became more than a tragedy. It became a warning, a symbol of how love twisted by control can end in devastating loss. With Marek Kaminski found dead the day after the murders, there would be no trial, no courtroom testimony, and no chance for the victim's loved ones to confront him. For some, this felt like stolen justice. For others, it was a grim relief. The man who had caused so much pain could no longer harm anyone else. But the absence of legal proceedings left the community struggling for closure. Instead, the story lived on in memorials, tributes, and urgent conversations about the dangers of domestic violence. For Ania's children, life had been split in two, a before and an after. For her brother, speaking at a vigil, the pain was still raw. My sister and father should be here with us today. Instead, we have to carry their memory. Advocates used the tragedy to highlight the warning signs of abusive relationships, control, isolation, and escalating threats. They urged anyone in similar situations to reach out for help before it's too late. In the end, the story of Ania and Stanislaw became a reminder that domestic violence doesn't always happen in the shadows. It can touch any family, in any neighborhood, at any time. And it often strikes hardest when someone finally decides to take back their freedom. If you were moved by this story, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Noir Crime 88, and turn on notifications. We share in-depth true crime stories every second day, shining a light on cases that should never be forgotten. Stay safe, take care of one another, and we'll see you in the next video.